Let's stop selling equality to women, give them the truth, and let's start thanking men in professional wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new episode of the Square Circle Podcast. I am your host, Marie Shadows, and if you're wondering where have all the Square Circle podcast episodes have been, it is basically taking its time, taking a little rest, because I have developed the CrossRoads series, which has nothing to do with Cody Rhodes' finisher CrossRoads. It's just spelled a little bit different. But because I've been talking about professional wrestling for the past 6 years, I need to pivot a little bit in my content, only because of the way that I'm seeing WWE and wrestling is moving in general. They are getting away from the influencers. They're not using the influencers and dirt sheets as much as they used to over the past 6 months or so, or just over the past years. They are now looking outward and also inward to work with people in-house. So as you can tell, WWE has created a lot more WWE programs with the people that they already work with. And if they need to release some type of bombshell announcement, it goes to Sports Illustrated, it goes to recognizable name sports columns and people in the industry and agents, and that's how that gets out. So I need to pivot a little bit to still showcase my skills in analyzing professional wrestling, analyzing things and hobbies and topics and stuff like that, and also doing think pieces. So CrossRoads Interviews is basically the name of the interview section going forward whenever I interview a wrestler, industry insider, maybe some musicians, some creative minds that will talk about on a deeper level about creativity, about pivoting, about their whole process, basically stuff like that. Stuff you've never heard before, which I'm trying to think about and what kind of questions I want to formulate. And then there is CrossRoads editorials, where that is all about different topics that will not be discussed under the Square Circle podcast, meaning like my first episode for CrossRoads editorial is going to be about Nickelback and their documentary, Hate to Love Nickelback, and look at that through the lens of a wrestling fan and fandom and how the internet can just cause chaos. And then the second episode to CrossRoads editorial is going to be about AEW and what if they would have kept the vlogging era that really truly would have made them an alternative in the wrestling market to give us something different. Because if you haven't noticed, everything within the wrestling market has changed with the times and with the trends. And even though some trends may die out faster than others, it is still a mark in the whole entire history that is professional wrestling, which brings me to women's wrestling, because we need to talk about women's wrestling. And before I get into women's wrestling, if you guys want to follow along on my journey of creating the CrossRoads series and still creating the Square Circle podcast will always be free episodes to listen to. The CrossRoads series, some stuff might have to be paid for, especially if you want to hear some Discord voice notes and memos. Some of that will have to be paid. All you have to do is sign up to my wrestling newsletter, marieshadows.substack.com. You can also sign up and also follow and subscribe and also get a membership over at youtube.com/Square Circle Podcast. You can follow the Spotify channel of the Square Circle Podcast if you listen to this on Spotify. And those are the main three areas. There is also Fourth Wall, which is very similar to Patreon, but Fourth Wall here has memberships and merchandise, and you guys could get whatever you want to support me, to support the brand. If you ever felt like my content had any kind of value and made you think a little bit different, change your perspective, made you a little bit wiser, and you just really support the message, support the brand, support me, support everything that I do, because it is a one-woman show here, by all means, please grab yourself a membership to not miss out on the gems that I will be dropping sooner rather than later. So by all means, I even said all those URLs, all of the links, right? I said them a little bit earlier. They will all be down in the description box below. Now, let's talk about something really, really important, which is women's wrestling. And the way that I started this podcast episode that I said, stop selling equality to women, give them the truth. And then let's also start thanking men for professional wrestling, for giving us the space to be part of professional wrestling. Even though throughout wrestling there has been shimmer and shine, and we have stardom, we have TJPW, we have bells to bells. We also have like women focused wrestling promotions, and I understand that. I do understand that they have their own platform. However, in a company like WWE, we gave women the space for that. And I'm so used to saying the word we, so don't get offended by that. But because we gave women the space, we felt like they can definitely be on par with us. They are our teammates, essentially. They are there with us with matches and segments and being part of the backstage interviews and interrupting the men, distracting the men, and then the men doing the same thing back to the women. So I don't understand this need for always separating, but still wanting the platform in order to still be separated, if that makes sense. We give a platform. It is teamwork makes the dream work, but you still want to be separate to show that women's wrestling is needed. If men already believe in you to be with them on stage, you don't really need to keep on separating yourself. So the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because there was a particular conversation that I had that I gave a nuanced take. I gave my experience working in the business in a conjoined co-ed promotion that has both men and women in the locker room, and also a promotion that had only women to work with. And equally speaking across the board, it is fun no matter which one I'm working for. It does not matter because I do not look at this industry based on gender. I look at this industry, the wrestling industry, based on merit and hard work and how much you're willing to put into this business that is never guaranteed, that is never rainbows and sunshine and unicorns and happiness and kumbaya, where like there is darkness at every corner while there is light at every corner too. I have done a majority. I'm not going to say I have done it all. I haven't really done it all in wrestling, but that's not the point. The point is that I don't look at this business in a gendered way. I look at this business in a way of how much effort is everybody across the board on this team is putting in the work. The moment that you have to separate men from female in this industry, you have already lost. Because while, yes, there is a section of fans that would definitely just love women's wrestling, but where are they? They're over in WWE cheering that on. They're over in AEW cheering that on. How many times are they going to their local wrestling promotion in their state whenever an all women's wrestling promotion stops on by? Not much, because sometimes these wrestlers don't get paid, but the wrestling fans are like, more women power, more women wrestling, fuck the men, women. And it's like, please, you need to understand that it is a team effort when it comes to professional wrestling. It is not just women this and that's it. Again, I'm going to reiterate, men gave the women the space and the platform and the time to be alongside them. And by the way, women started to come into professional wrestling as very nice looking models, very nice looking managers and valet. And then we got to a certain point in the eras of professional wrestling where women were ahead of their time. Alundra Blaze was ahead of her time. Other women were ahead of their time and they were wrestling. It's just that at the time that they were wrestling, it just really wasn't needed. The crowd was hot. And when I say wasn't needed, it doesn't mean like they can't be wrestlers. They could. However, if we look at wrestling, wrestling is a man's sport and the big commodity are men. And the women are there. We gave them the space for that. And I know I keep saying we gave them the space. I'll get to the juicy stuff in a little bit. But I really need to drive that point home that we need to start thanking the men for doing that for us, because we could have just adapted the way that Japan does their wrestling, where New Japan Pro Wrestling is all men. They did try for a women's roster for New Japan Pro Wrestling, but it just didn't work out. So they were like, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all men. Pro Wrestling Noah, all men. All Japan Pro Wrestling, all men. And then they were like, hey, we should do women's wrestling. We have Stardom, all women's wrestling, even though sometimes Stardom goes to New Japan Pro Wrestling to please all of the air quotes progressives out there that don't give a shit no more about Japanese women wrestling. And then we have like TJP, we have all the rest of the women Japanese wrestling promotions. But here in America, we give women space in sometimes a male-dominated sport, but it seems like when it comes to women wrestling fans and even some allies who would say they're allies, and it's just like, I'm not really sure about that. And then the allies come in and they're like, we want women, everything, women, 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 women. It doesn't matter if you're a man, move out the way. And it's like, you're not respecting the space with them in a pro wrestling ecosystem. For the record, women's wrestling has come a long way from the managers to the valets to the era where they wrestled and they had their own championship titles, but then it just didn't go on beyond then. And then we get towards the bra and panties matches, the mud show matches. And then we also get to the Divas search where it's like show up in a bikini baby. And then we get to the reality show era where it's scripted reality where these women have drama, just so that way they can have more time because they're not on equal footing with the men. Again, they gave you a platform. You branched off of the platform to create your own thing. Women have been creating their own spaces with the tools that were given to them to make those decisions and get on those platforms and become Hollywood stars and get the movie roles and get the reality TV shows, the Bella Twins, and nobody else got their own TV show. The Miz and Maryse do not really matter in this conversation. That's not the point. But any other just women-based wrestler never got their own reality show, but the Bellas do, and the Bellas get all the praise in the world, and yet wrestling fans are still like, women, 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 women. Okay, now, the reason why I bring all of this up and to set the foundation, and now we're getting into the good parts, is because Bully Ray had said something. And of course, I'm going to comment on it because I understand where Bully Ray is coming from. Bully Ray says, I don't think we need to single the women out anymore and give them their own shows. I think the women have proven themselves that they should have their segments, their matches, their promos on main shows because they belong as much as the men do. And Bully Ray was saying this on Busted Open Radio. And I agree. Do you want to know why I agree? It's because, one, I work in the business. And like I said earlier, I shared the locker room with both a co-ed, for the sake of this conversation, a co-ed locker room like MOW, and then also even a co-ed working space in WWE, and then worked on an all-women's wrestling promotion called Goddesses of War Wrestling as a commentator, and I loved each and every second of it. And I understand where Bully Ray is coming from when he says that the women belong as much as the men do. They really do. And by the way, me as a woman working in a male-dominated sport, and if I heard that, and if my male colleagues are like, yo, she's one of us, she's one of the bros, and that, you know, I'm really working my ass off and doing this and doing that, and they told me that, yeah, you belong with us, that to me is respect. That to me is all I ever want to hear because it is a team effort. I see everyone pulling their weight. Half the time on like the bad indies, you see people not pulling their weight, but on the good indies, when you see people pulling their weight, it is the best thing in the world because things get done and that's what you want. So of course I'm going to give a nuanced take to this where I say verbatim, I'm with Bully Ray on this one, and it's only because I work in the business, and I'm glad to belong as much as the men do. Women's Evolution PLE was good, and yeah, the women of today can take center stage, but then we'll need a men's PLE with no women matches on it at all, because women always call for equality. So if you really want to just separate Can the men have their own PLE? And do not say that, oh, they already do. No, they don't. Because every single PLE, including house shows, are always shared with women. They don't miraculously replace all of the female referees and the female backstage interviewers with men to make it everything men. They don't kick out any kind of woman whenever they go to town and they have to set up and they have to do this. Like, imagine kicking out the women who do hair and makeup just because, like, it's so stupid to be like, we need this women's evolution pay-per-view to prove that we're good and we can have all this equality. Okay, but what about the men? Because if you want equality, whatever you want, the other opposite sex, or however you want to think about this, have to get the same thing of what you want. Oh, and what is that? That's communism. That's communism right there, to want what the other person wants at an equal value. It cannot be more, it cannot be less, it has to be equal. On paper, it sounds great to have equality on paper, but when you really try to apply it to real life, to a republic that we are, the United States of America, it does not work. Equality does not work all of the time, because life isn't just that way. Life is messy, life is chaotic, life is beautiful, and life is death. Like, you can't just sit there and be like, equality, but wait, the men need their own pay-per-view. No, they don't. Like, get out of here. I continue to say, PLEs and segments turn out better as a team rather than always wanting to separate. There can obviously be future WWE Women's Evolution PLEs, but who's to say it'll be next year? Since it's not a yearly thing, we'll still have to wait, and if we wait, people will complain about it, and when we do get it, it'll be rushed. Again, people complain about it. Things like this needs good planning to feel grand, and I'd put Stephanie McMahon for that planning for the next Women's Evolution PLE. I worked for an all-women's wrestling promotion. It was fun and I enjoyed it, but I'm glad to be working with both men and women. Teamwork makes the dream work. And just to expand a little bit about putting Stephanie McMahon in charge about the next Women's Evolution pay-per-view, I really do think that a women's PLE is needed for any kind of blow-off matches, any kind of matches that need a resolution, and some throwaway matches where we can work a storyline onto the next pay-per-view. I do not think that a woman's PLE, a woman's evolution PLE, should be every single month or every year. I think that it should at least be 6 months out of the year. And this is where everything accumulates to end storylines, to make some new storylines, to have some heel turns. And I say that because while all the women that they have on the roster may not be able to get enough time to tell their stories, and if they don't want to use the social media route of like vlogging, of making drama and all that kind of stuff, you use that time in between to set up for the Women's Evolution pay-per-view to make sure that those storylines get somewhat of a decent amount of time, because I think that's very more beneficial. That's another way where we could share spaces and still have the same outcome of the women belong in the locker room with the men, because obviously the men are not saying you don't belong here. Bully Ray is not saying they don't belong or they don't need their own pay-per-view, their own segments. They have all of that. It's just in a shared space. Again, what is so wrong about sharing a space with men in a sport that they dominate, but they were so nice and kind to give us the space to have our own stories, to have our own feuds, to fight over the belts, and even put on great matches that involve hardcore, that involve the ladders, that involve everybody else. Let me tell you what I don't like, which I was very surprised to see this phrase pop up in 2025. I thought we left this phrase back a couple years ago, and it is fragile masculinity at its finest. That is what somebody had commented on Bully Ray's comment. How is it fragile masculinity? It is okay if you just say that you don't like Bully Ray, that you don't like the way that Bully Ray talks. You don't like the way that Bully Ray does Bully Ray things. If you are truthful to yourself and with yourself, you wouldn't have to fall for the propaganda that is fragile masculinity, that phrase. Also, it goes with toxic masculinity. Just because you as a woman get pushback from a man does not mean that that man does not like you. That man does not know you. That man is not going to date you. That man is not going to invite you out somewhere. Not all men are looking to be like, oh, I hate this chick. Sometimes men want to say that, hey, that's not cool. And if they say that's not cool, it's automatically fragile masculinity. Sometimes women don't understand that men care so deeply about certain situations, and because men have the experience of being in very different locker rooms and sharing the locker rooms with women and getting to work with women, they basically consider them to be part of the team. So how is it fragile masculinity to be like, hey, I don't think they need their own show because they belong with the men, their segments, their matches, they belong with the men. And if you haven't noticed, WWE has put the women on notice between Raw, SmackDown, NXT, WWE Evolve, even in the WWE ID program. Across the board, women have been featured. It may not always be in the main event, but women have some type of screen time, whether that is on interview series, whether that is in the ring, whereas outside the ring for media and all this kind of stuff. Even the in-house WWE programs, like all the podcast episodes that they're doing, that women appear on it. But no, like I said, women want women only. And it's like, there's not enough time in the world to put all the women on TV to satisfy your fake allegiance to being women power. Because you need to understand that this is a business. Everybody gets their time. Wrestlers should not go over their time. We talk about this on the indies all the time, that do not go over your time of what we tell you, because then it messes up everything. This is what I mean, is that like, you want to be an ally, but you don't know how business works. You want to be an ally, but you also want to dismiss people who have a lived experience in the wrestling business and can tell you what's up and can tell you that Bully Ray is not the problem. The problem is that when you have a fake allegiance to wanting equality, but when you apply it to real life, equality don't work. Let's get to the other juicy part of this. I don't like conversations where people are stuck on a one-minded track where they say that no one has considered or even provided the women with equal pay, equal opportunity, and equal TV time. Well, here's another shocker that I'm going to drop on you guys. I do not believe in equal pay. I do not believe in equal opportunity. Like I said earlier, if you believe in equality for pay and opportunity, that is a communist mindset, because whatever somebody has that I don't know this person at all, why should I have the same thing of what they are getting when I don't know them? Myself and the person that is across from me, that could be a man, female, it doesn't matter. That person is not going on my same journey. So why is my opportunity that I get in professional wrestling have to be their opportunity as well? How does that make sense? So let me back up a little bit. Let me start with equal pay first of all. Equal pay is non-existent. That thing does not make sense, because I like to work for what I get. I like to create podcast episodes. This isn't like going to McDonald's and creating food and giving food to a customer. These are totally two different occupations. So why do I have to make $15 an hour the same way that the McDonald's worker has to make $15 an hour, and they're busting their ass way more than I am by making content? Does that make any sense? When you are asking for equal pay, you are dismissing every single kind of industry and occupation that we as man-made made, if that makes sense. We created all these industries, we created all these occupations. We basically created an answer to all of the problems that we have, and we train people to basically take care of these problems. That's why we have an occupation. That's why it's called a job, and it's goods and services. It's a bunch of different intertwining things, right? So across the board, if you take every single occupation and job that we have ever created and you say now we're getting equal pay, that doesn't make any sense, because some jobs require overtime, some jobs require a safety net. So that means that if you want equal pay because you're a woman, for some odd reason you want this, you will eliminate overtime pay and you would eliminate safety pay, because if you're going to put equal pay, that is a ceiling, that is a cap. And it doesn't work like that in professional wrestling, since this is about professional wrestling. But I need women to understand that why should you get paid the same as the man if you're not going to put in extra work and worry about your own workload? That there's a reason why there is laws against getting underpaid and not getting paid what you originally signed for. So if we were having a conversation about you working at a fast food place and you know that the job is offering $15 an hour and you're under the impression that you and your coworkers are getting $15 an hour, 2 months in, you finally check your pay stub and your pay stub says you're getting paid $13 an hour, that right there is a lawsuit, and you could get back up to $15 an hour. Now, that is something I would be like, yes, we got to go and deal with that. That is justice. But again, why should you as a worker in a fast food place get paid the same as like a salary manager that is not making $15 an hour? And by the way, does anyone ever think about the concept of salaries? Salaries are paid out to people in manager and higher positions in corporate that is on a fixed sum of money. And when they do overtime, they may or may not get that money either. So like a salary worker is always going to get the same amount of money every single month in their bank account, versus a regular worker at a fast food place, at like a retail job, that will fluctuate their pay due to how many hours they worked, if they did overtime, if they didn't do overtime, if they take any days off. Like, it fluctuates. Even taxes, it'll fluctuate it. So what is this obsession with equal pay if you're not going to realize how dumb that is when you want everything to be the same? In a perfect world, if we were all robots, okay, sure, because we're all robots, but then maybe one robot will rebel, but we're not going to go there. But yeah, I do not believe in equal pay. I believe in working hard for your merit to get paid on the basis of the value that you bring to the table. And I believe that the harder you work, the more joyful it is, the more stuff you could do with your community. But there are just some people in the world that are just lazy and will want equal pay and don't know how to save. They want equal pay so that way they can not do enough work and not go above and beyond while other people have to pick up other people's slack. So imagine if like we had equal pay and a woman decides to take some time off for mental health because they can't deal with the stress of whatever work they decide to do. That means that the man is going to do extra work, pick up her workload, do overtime, but he can't make the money because it's equal pay, because it caps out. So how does that make sense? This is why I don't believe in that stupid fucking equal pay shit or even the wage gap thing, because again, they took every single job that they could, they put it all together, they added it up, they created an average, and that's not how you do that. However, in the real world, in a very smart real world, if we decided to take up all of the industries, all of the occupations, and we did a study for each and every single one of them, then we could have a proper conversation about maybe the construction industry of like, hey, there's not enough like balance at least for the pay between men and women. But then again, not a lot of women go into construction. So like nursing, for example, because nursing is a big one. You have more women in nursing. So of course, oh, maybe I should flip the conversation on you guys. For nursing, since there is an increase of females in nursing, does that mean that the guys that are in nursing, should they end up complaining about the gender pay wage gap because they're not making enough money like their female counterparts? Should they start advocating for equal pay for male nurses? Let me know down in the comments, because women always say equality, 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 and the media goes with it, and feminists go with it, and fake male allies go with it, but they never want to look at the Republic and what we built and really have these truthful conversations about what does that truly mean? What does it truly mean to be on equal footing? Whatever I make on here as a podcaster and whatever my fellow podcasters make, whether they go live or they don't go live, we should not have the same pay, because then it's going to be boring and then it's going to be mad weird and awkward. So like my other podcasting people in the space, they make their money because they're grinding every single day. I'm doing thoughtful content and picking and choosing when to go live, when to make a podcast episode, when to make Discord notes, when to tell you guys, hey, I have new merchandise, please go and buy, or I have a new membership, please go and check it out. Even though I grind my ass off too, whatever I make is whatever I make due to my hard work. Whatever they make and their grind is what they do. I should not be dipping into their bank account just because I'm a woman and I get to say equal pay, equal pay, equal pay. No, it's all about merit. It's all about value. And it's all about how you carry yourself with integrity of the content that you make. And this goes across the board with the various industries that we have. So like another example about this equal pay thing, if there is a field tech division out there, which there is, and you have a receptionist, and then you have a guy that goes out into the field and works on houses, works on electricity, stuff like that, like field techs. They go out, they drive the car, they go from house to house to house. Does the woman administrator need to get the same amount of money as the man who at any point something can happen to him outside in the real world? Like, does that make sense? Why do we need to have equal pay? And why do we need to have women always saying equal pay, equal opportunity, equal this, but the men don't get shit? Do you know what we should be doing instead as a nation, as a United States of America? We should be teaching every single person, even teenagers. So teenagers, adults, male, female, we should be teaching them how to be very conscious with their money. So that way we don't have to have this stupid conversation about equal pay and the gender wage gap and that women make less money on the dollar just because they don't want to do the proper studies. Well, if we're going to take those proper studies and we're going to do a hypothetical right now, if it is true, because it's really not, but in this hypothetical, we'll just say that it is, even though it's a hypothetical. If it's true that women get paid less, you guys should be learning how to invest your money. You guys should be learning how to tone down your lifestyle. You don't need new nails every single 2 weeks. You don't need a new hairstyle every 2 weeks. You don't need that coffee every single day. You can make your own coffee. You can make your own stuff. You can definitely find the time to meal prep and do all these things. And you can also invest and try to learn about stocks and try to learn about trading and try to learn about, like, hey, if I put X amount of money into Target, your favorite place to shop, and whenever the stock market goes up in Target, you get money and eventually you could take that money out. That is as basic as I could tell you about stocks and what I know and what I hear. You could try to do the Airbnb thing. You could try making a portfolio, but no, we keep the women fucking dumb. Where it's like, yo, you should go sell your body. No, you shouldn't. Because then it's so easy to sell your body. But like, what do you have in the world of like communication? How can you communicate if all you're going to do is be like, look at my boobs, look at my butt? and service that kind of industry where it's like you're young, you're smart, you went to college for something, but the only thing that we tell women to fall back on is opening up an OnlyFans when they turn 18. And it's like, that's so sad. You need to develop your skills so that way, if the internet ever goes down, you're shit out of luck, because the internet is never going to last forever. Electricity may not last forever. Shit may happen. And to save yourself, how are you going to enter the workforce to do old school things if all you're used to is, look at what I can show you on my body? And the saddest part too, that this thought just came into my head, that if the internet ever did go down and the OnlyFans female models have nothing to do, a man could still get a job because his strength is needed for construction. Like, let that sink in for a bit. Anyway, let me add some more stuff about the equal pay thing about when it comes to wrestling. Just so you know, because I know the past minutes were not about wrestling based. It was just about things in society that people don't really think about. And we really got to stop telling women that you got to say equality. No, you don't. We just got to give you guys the truth. And I'm here to give you the truth. So when it comes to equal pay in professional wrestling, everybody gets something different. Everybody has a different contract. This is why we have contracts. And contracts dictate how much money you're going to make and how much merchandise sale, royalties, whatever you negotiate. This is the thing. People negotiate their money. Women don't know how to negotiate for shit. If you're one of the women that know how to negotiate, that statement is for you. But the majority and on a grand scale, we don't know how to negotiate. Sometimes I don't know how to negotiate either. So I'm in that statement. So it doesn't really matter. But anyway, so most people negotiate their contracts to get higher pay, to get more royalties, to get this, to get that, because they have some leverage that they could do that. Now, like I said, every contract is different. Every payout is different. So if we decided to have equal pay in professional wrestling, how does that work out? Because Roman Reigns may get paid like $1 million a year. So does that mean that your average indie female wrestler needs to get paid $1 million a year? I'm not even doing this within like the company per se, but like if we want to think about it broader, because that's what equality does. Equality is basically a blanket for every single person in the United States. It does not matter if you work for WWE, if you work for AEW, if you work for MOW, if you work at a fast food place, if you work at a construction place. It does not matter. If we're going to talk about equal pay, we have to talk about it across the board. That means it includes everybody. So the internet darling female indie star on the rise, does she get $1 million every year because Roman Reigns, who basically sells tickets, sell merchandise, and had one of the hottest storylines ever in WWE, is she able to get his $1 million every single year if you want equal pay? Because that's essentially what you're saying, that somebody that just started should get the same amount of money as Roman Reigns. Now, on the topic of royalties, because royalties are very sporadic, royalties are very chaotic, you cannot control how much someone buys of the merchandise when it comes to a professional wrestler. So again, let's do another example, because Kevin Owens always brings this up in one way, shape, or form when he talks about royalties. He says that he gets more money in royalties than anything else that he has ever done. So basically, because he gets a lot of royalties, how are you going to make that equal to an indie darling female wrestler that just started? And she doesn't know what royalties are because she doesn't have a contract. She's working on a hand dog and a handshake kind of deal, and she sets up her own merchandise table. Speaking of merchandise table, Matt Cardona is the most prolific guy to sell out his merchandise, and he charges various different prices for his merchandise. We could think of that as royalties, and that's what we're going to do for this exercise. So because Matt Cardona sells out his table, does that mean that the wrestler next to him should be getting the same amount of money too in royalties when the wrestler next to him just sells a sticker? Because if you want equal pay, it has to be across the board, the rules and regulation of if Matt Cardona makes 500, the wrestler next to him has to make $500. If not, then it's not equal pay. And again, that goes back to it being a communist kind of thinking of like, whatever this person has, I has to have it too, and that has to be equal. So again, this is why it doesn't make sense to continue to tell women equal, 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 when it's like, let's apply it to things that wouldn't necessarily be applied to. Now that I have those examples out of the way, let me tackle this equal opportunity thing, because I do not believe in this. Because again, my journey in the professional wrestling space is not the same as someone else's journey that wants to be a corporate member. So if I am getting opportunities interviewing professional wrestlers, how come somebody in corporate that's doing some totally different job, why would they need my opportunity to get equal opportunity to interview wrestlers when that's not what they're doing? And I only bring this up because, again, if you want equality, it has to be across the board. It can't just be in one industry because you want to make a statement, because you want to be an activist, but you don't understand phrases and buzzwords because you're like equality, equality, equality. And it's like, well, how do you apply that to the real world? We all have to be equal on some playing field. So because I'm in wrestling, my other buddies in wrestling that make content, go out and interview wrestlers, and while I could still get the same wrestler that they're interviewing, again, their opportunity shouldn't be my opportunity, and my opportunity shouldn't be their opportunity, because we both have two different thought patterns. We both have two different goals. It may look like we're similar because we're in the wrestling space and we're both being interviewers and stuff like that. But again, what they want to do and the opportunities that open up for them are for them. You do not take the opportunity that was given to somebody else that was never meant for you, because that is greedy. And while we do have some greediness in the professional wrestling space and people who cut corners, that does not mean that that's okay. And that does not mean that other people want to do the same shit too. Whatever opportunities that I get or the opportunities that I make for myself are not meant for the other person. So no, I do not believe in equal opportunity. I do not understand why in wrestling we need to have this equal opportunity. So what does that really mean if we put it into context? So Roman Reigns, I'm going to use him as an example. Roman Reigns is the top guy in WWE, whether you think so or not. So does that mean that Michin also gets the top spot in the women's division? And does that mean that she gets the same storyline as Roman Reigns for the equal opportunity? Like, what does it mean to have an equal opportunity in professional wrestling? If you work very hard and you know what you're doing, you could get on the match card. Sometimes it just falls through. It's business. It's not personal. So what does having an equal opportunity mean in professional wrestling? And I do understand that there are wrestlers in catering. I understand that. I understand that sometimes the nature of the beast is we don't have anything for you creatively. Well, why are you not pitching stories to WWE writers? Why are you not pitching stories to Triple H? You could just text him. That goes for any wrestler out there, male, female, it doesn't matter. If you feel like you are being neglected in a business where you know that the nature of the beast can be like, yo, we're going to let you go, why not try your hardest to text an idea or pitch an idea or use social media to your advantage, similar to how Karrion Kross has been using his social media to his advantage, and look at him now. The entertainment business will continue to move as fast as it does, and you will just sit there and complain and be like, they're not using me, I'm in catering. Well, work your ass off. Get back on that grind. Show us videos of you going to the gym. Show us videos of you practicing your promo. Show us videos of you practicing inside the ring and stuff like that. Show. And then eventually create enough fan interest, and then you'll get back on. There's no guarantee, but you'll feel better because you put in the work and you know your value and you know what you need to do. Somebody out there will see it. Somebody out there will share it. The fact that we all want this, well, not we, I don't want it, this equal pay nonsense, this equal opportunity nonsense, and also the equal TV time. What does that mean? What does equal TV time mean? So if two men are having a promo for 20 minutes and it's getting hyped and it's getting aggressive and it's getting drama filled, does that mean that the women also get a 20-minute promo and it falls flat? What happens if it falls flat? There's not much to work around with. So I don't understand this equal TV time when you know that on cable and on Netflix and wherever else, they show ads. These businesses sell ad space. So there's only a certain amount of time that people on the card have. And like I said, I'm going to go back to what I said in the beginning, that on the indies, you are told to stick to your times. In WWE, I am sure when they go over production that they're like, stick to your times. You only have X amount of minutes, stick to your times. So how can we have equal TV time when everybody knows in the entertainment business, you need to stick to your times in order to get this 2-hour show done? And we leave the building because you rent the building for maybe like 3 hours, because that includes cleanup and that includes taking down the ring, taking down the light rig, putting them in the truck. So you rent it out for 3 hours. That's all you have is 3 hours. So why are we trying to advocate for equal TV time? This is why people who want to talk like this, think like this, and then dismiss people who work in the business as like a scoff, as like, thanking men for crumbs is silly, when it is not. Because without the men giving us the space in professional wrestling to be who we are today and how far we've come, from the valets to the managers to semi-wrestlers to mud show to bikini models to reality era to now damn good women's wrestling. Why should we not be thanking the men at this point? Why is it silly to be like, thank you, men, for giving us this opportunity and for us to be side by side and you feel like we belong? Why is this silly? And it's not crumbs. What do you mean it's crumbs? That line, like, really was like a slap in the face of like really deflating my experiences and telling the whole world that it does not matter the locker room. I love the locker room, whether it's all women, whether it's co-ed, and I am very thankful to be in a position where if I'm working MOW, the men respect me. The men love seeing that I'm there. I always check in on the guys. I always talk to guys. I always shake their hands. If they need me to be adaptable and be anywhere, I'm always there. I work with them the same way that they work with me. Over in December, we had a team that was fantastic. And the last time that I was there, not too long ago for Summer of the Beast in June, we also had a wonderful team that was there. The head guy that I know, he's a wonderful guy. Like, I am so very thankful to be part of the wrestling business and have the respect of the boys. Because essentially, just like Eddie Kingston, that's what I care about. That's what I respect. The moment that if someone ever got out of line with me and I was to tell one of the guys, I know they'll have my back. I just know it. And I know that we work better as a team. But to say that thanking men for crumbs is silly when you have a problem with Bully Ray and you can easily talk to him about the things that you dislike, that's more understanding. That would be a perfect podcast episode to talk to Bully Ray and be like, hey, there are some things that you said that I don't agree with. Can you please elaborate? Because I want to have an understanding. Hey, I don't like the way that you talk about women. Hey, I think that you're sexist. Bully Ray, if you're listening to this, I don't think you're sexist, and I'll explain in a little bit. But like, those are questions, those are things to talk about. So the reason why I don't think that Bully Ray is sexist is because he comes from New York City. I come from New York City. So I understand that his position on being in a business that makes you tough, that was built by men for men, because it's fighting no matter what. And when women come in, and if the women don't pull their weight, it might sound sexist to you when he says something, when he critiques something, because again, women are emotional creatures. I am too. Don't get offended. And sometimes we don't want to hear the truth. Sometimes we don't want to hear something. Sometimes a tone is just like, nah, don't do that tone, but in this business, you have to pull your weight. If you're not pulling your weight, then it's going to sound like Bully Ray is sexist when he's not really sexist. Like, if he really was, he wouldn't be in the industry still, because cancel culture has this thing of like, this man is horrible, that man is horrible. But then when Nikki Bella over here is abusing her husband, she gets a free pass. So, yeah, this whole entire podcast might seem that I'm anti-woman or anti-whatever, because I know you guys are going to create your narratives and you guys are going to push this out. No, this is me telling you guys the truth, telling you guys to think a little bit deeper about the propaganda that gets put out there to basically have women stay in this box. We tell women to be progressive and be you, and you could do whatever you want, but also in the same breath, that same propaganda tells you that you'll never be good enough. You make less money than a man. You need to demand equal pay, without sitting them down and letting them know that the studies conducted for that wage gap is completely wrong, or sitting them down to be like, this is why equal pay doesn't work. This is why equal opportunity doesn't work. This is how you can tell who's going to be a winner, who's not going to be a winner. And by the way, I know I'm supposed to be talking about women's wrestling and all of that. I just want you guys to know that women's wrestling has come a long way. Those that complain on the internet, on Twitter, they are 19-year-olds to maybe 25-year-olds who don't know shit about the world, but they will get on their soapbox and they will yell to the world as if they know, but they don't know. They don't go back into history books and look at how women's wrestling was shaped. Is women's wrestling perfect? No. Is men's wrestling perfect? No. Are there questionable things in the world of entertainment that is not only WWE? Yes. There is a lot of questionable things all around the world. However, entertainment, while yes, it is subjective, we have to look at it objective and look at how we are treating women, where it's like we tell them that they could be whatever they want to be. And then we also let them know that you need to hate men for, for the sake of hating men. And by the way, that needs to stop, because men and women, while we are different, and I will always acknowledge that we're different, we need each other. Teamwork makes the dream work. And I get it. There are different situations across the board. There are different things that happen. We're not talking about that. But if we're looking at the bigger picture for society to survive, for wrestling to survive, even though it's going to survive, teamwork makes the dream work when it comes to these type of situations. I almost forgot to make this point, which is the Women's Evolution pay-per-view is still under the WWE banner that says worldwide entertainment that brings along both men and women to their sporting events. Leading up to the Women's Evolution, there was no break off or spin off or a new promotion that is just women based, where maybe it could be head by Stephanie McMahon to make Women's World Wrestling Entertainment, and it's just women. That will be equality. That will be on the same playing field. So now that the women get to have their own equal pay, equal opportunity, and equal TV time. But Women's Evolution was still under the WWE banner, which is run by men. So again, we give women the space to do all of the projects that they want to do. We give them the space to just work as hard as the men. And they get praise for it. They get flowers for it. We're always like, good job. They do amazing. But for some reason, there always wants to be a separation. But if there was a separation, it would not go very, very well. As we can see on the indies with the other women wrestling promotions that aren't doing well, because most of the women wrestling fans are watching WWE, they're watching AEW, they're watching other programming and stuff like that. When was the last time someone proudly said on Twitter that they went to their local promotion in their hometown to support women's wrestling? There are a few of them, but they're not going out there at the same record number as the sellout shows of WWE, because it's very easy to talk about a big corporation that you don't like, but you still participate in buying the tickets, buying the merch, making podcast episodes about this big corporation. But in the same breath, you say that it's capitalism, it's billionaires, and billionaires are holding the women back, and Triple H don't care about the women, which, by the way, brings me to this one headline that says, and this is from Bleacher Report, like, this is really so paid for it. But this is from Bleacher Report. Outstanding WWE Evolution PLE proves women's wrestling is undervalued by Triple H. And that is far from the truth. Every single woman in WWE, under the guidance of Triple H and Shawn Michaels, the women have been doing extremely well. Just because you felt that the Women's Evolution pay-per-view was good, and I felt that the Women's Evolution pay-per-view was good also, doesn't mean that based off of Triple H's answer, where I'm just paraphrasing here, and the gist of it is that, is there a demand for this pay-per-view every single time it comes up? There's not really much of a demand for it. Now, yeah, we waited 7 years, but that's because everything had to fall into place. You can't just rush into something and bringing it back just to please the allies and the fake allies and the fake feminists out there and the other feminists that want you to believe that women are weak, but also women are strong by showing off their body, and then also saying that women should demand equal pay when they don't want to work as hard as they should. Like, there's a lot of mixed messages. Until the feminist movement and all of the allies can really come together and compromise on one good vision, then we could probably have reoccurring woman pay-per-views, PLEs, whatever it is. Right now, every single body is playing on the same field as the men. While yes, you could look at it that some men get more TV time, and that's because men are the attraction. This is an entertainment sport. Sometimes the women can get the main attraction and they could get more time than the men. We give enough space, enough time, and there's social media for the women to use. There's social media for the men to use. We shouldn't really be complaining in 2025 when we say that we're progressive, we're progressive. Are you truly progressive if you're not using social media to your advantage? You have a smartphone that's like $1,000 and you're not vlogging, you're not telling people, hey, I'm going to do a quick Q&A. Do you know how awesome it is to go on Instagram and watch the videos of Thea Hale trying to get coffee and her coffee adventures? And I love coffee, so like that's my type of content. So I'm watching her videos of her going on a coffee adventure, and that, me as a fan watching her and, you know, just seeing what she does and what she says is kind of cool. Use social media to your advantage. You are still a marketing billboard for your brand, even though you're under the WWE banner. You got to make people interested. You can't just sit on your ass and be like, I want equal pay. Okay, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just sitting here relaxing. Okay, no. You have to put in the work to get the money. You can't just be like, oh, I'm sitting here taking some time off for mental health. Well, you should still pay me the same amount as Roman Reigns. What? With that being said, I do think that the Women's Evolution pay-per-view was good. The matches were solid. The Royal Rumble was fun. The winner was fun of like who they picked, which I don't remember at this very moment. But either way, the whole entire pay-per-view was fun. The main event was fantastic. The women can go. The women are at a different level and at a different standard. While there's always room for improvement, just because they don't get the same time as the men doesn't mean they're not worth it. They are worth it. They are worth it to be alongside the men, and that's what we should strive to do. Rather than butting heads with men and even with women, we should try to understand our differences, and if there is weaknesses involved, the strength should take over, and then you work on the weaknesses so that becomes strength. It's teamwork. Okay, it's teamwork. And by the way, I want women to be working in wrestling no matter what. However, I do not want women to become the tokenism just because they are a woman and they're different from a man. I do not want that in professional wrestling. You get into professional wrestling because you have the heart, you have the dedication, you have the persistent, because there's going to be ups and downs and really, really bad situations sometimes. There are dark corners, there are light corners. Like I said, wrestling is not glamorous. But as long as you have the ambition, the heart, the passion, the persistence, and you do not give up, you can make it in this business and you'll be alongside the men, and the men will want you there, and the other females that are working there will want you there too. We all have our days, okay? And what separates it is that teamwork makes the dream work, and I'm going to keep repeating that because it is a team effort. But again, I do not want the tokenism of us being women just to be in positions that we may not be good for those positions in the world of wrestling. While in the world of wrestling, there are really numerous different jobs that you can do. You could be adaptable. You can learn. You could be there to sub in if you need to, or if the promotion needs you to. However, not all women are cut out for professional wrestling, and it is okay. The same way that not all men are cut out for professional wrestling. Like, why would, for an example, why would a woman go apply for the NFL knowing how dangerous the NFL is and the research that is done whenever the tackles happen and CTE is a problem and all these guys get concussions? Why would a woman want to sign up to the NFL? They don't do that, right? It's the same thing in wrestling. You take that risk. However, some women are able to go along with being a professional wrestler or being a referee or being a commentator or being something, while others, it just doesn't work out. And that's totally okay. We need to get back to a basis where it's okay to tell people, look, this may not be for you. And we're not trying to be rude, but it may not be for you. Your calling, your passion may be something else, somewhere else, maybe adjacent to professional wrestling, but to be in the business, it may not be for you, and that's totally okay. The same way that, like, I'm not going to apply to a construction job because that's not for me. I know that. That'd be kind of stupid. I don't need someone to tell me, oh, yeah, you don't belong here. Like, this isn't for you, because I already know. And it's the same thing in wrestling. Sometimes it's, it's okay. You don't have to go down the wrestling path. Maybe there's another path out there in one of your hobbies that you'll fall in love with and it becomes your passion. And you're not going to be the tokenism of that passion. That's all I don't want in professional wrestling, is for us as women, just because we're women, to become tokenized inside this profession and have our own separate pay-per-views, our own separate segments away from the guys, our own separate interviews, our own separate podcasts, which we have that already. But case in point is, if we're going to keep separating, then why call for equality if all you want to do is separate and then use equality for your own gain and be selfish about it and say, fuck the men? And let me end it with this. People love to preach equality until it's time to give women the freedom to disagree. Especially when said woman here, Marie Shadows, has knowledge and experience of working both a co-ed promotion and also an all-women's exclusive promotion. and knowing the difference and not even feeling anything different between the two, because everyone is accepting and everyone knows that this is a team effort when we put on a show. It's all about putting on a show and making sure that the audience is having the time of their life. We really do not think about, I don't like this person. Why is this person here? This man is giving me the creeps. If a man ever did give one of us the creeps, we know who to go to. It'll be taken care of. But across the board, when you have a very high standard locker room, that does not happen. When you have a low standard locker room ran by low standard men who have these promotions, then you have a problem. But when you have a high standard locker room, that shit doesn't happen. There are no arguments where it's like, ew, you're a man, you got cooties. Nobody's doing that shit. No one's acting super feminist around these men and being like, you shouldn't be sitting there. Why are you here? You shouldn't even be in the main event. I should get your payment. The promoter's paying you, right? Like, that money should go to me. None of these stupid conversations are happening in the locker room, by the way. The locker rooms are all filled with happy to be here. It's all filled with, hey man, how's it going? How's the family? The locker room is filled with, you got this, honey. We believe in you. Or, just really teamwork ethic stuff across both locker rooms. And that's what I love. Everybody there is super cool. So to follow that up, it is really weird and awkward that a male would say thanking men for crumbs is silly, when in reality it's just disagreeing with a woman's lived experience, nuanced take, and agreeing with another male in the business, Bully Ray, that they don't agree with. And they want to disagree with it. And the more you disagree with it and foster other women who want to shout at the top of their lungs, fragile masculinity and toxic masculinity, those women will never leave the box. And then they talk so much shit about men until they want to start a family, hop on that disco stick, take a wonderful ride, and 9 months later, they have a kid. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to share it out with your friends. Leave a comment if you want to leave a comment. You guys can get this for free over at marieshadows.substack.com, over on Spotify, search up Square Circle Podcast, over on youtube.com/Square Circle Podcast, and also on Fourth Wall, which is very similar to Patreon, but just different, and it follows my vision for what I want creatively. And yeah, if you hear me stutter on this one, it's because I'm very passionate and frustrated, and my brain is moving faster than normal, which is totally normal to stutter. If you need to stutter, everybody does it. So if anyone tried to clown me on that, think twice. This is me telling you guys the truth. And we need to stop telling women about equality and giving them the truth. And we also need to thank men. So, dear men in the professional wrestling space, if you know me, you know me. If you don't, hi, I'm Marie Shadows. And I want to say thank you so much for giving us women the opportunity to share the ring alongside you. Women came a long way in this industry in professional wrestling from, like I detailed earlier in the episode, we came a long way. Thank you for allowing us to come a long way and finally being at your side in these segments, in these stories, and even having our own pay-per-view called Women's Evolution on WWE. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys, and I am very happy to share a locker room with men and with women every time that I go out into the world and help out at promotions. I am so thankful for every opportunity that I get. If you do not agree with anything that I said here, that's totally fine too. We can agree to disagree, but I like to work hard, and I like to make sure that people know that I work hard on all of my promos. Everything is original, from merchandise to memberships to building communities and building people that want to think for themselves, and building a community where we could have these conversations and we could talk about it. I really don't like emotional conversations, but I'm trying to build a community where thoughtfulness and intention is really at the forefront, rather than trying to clown on somebody, rather than trying to be negative, rather than trying to be like, oh, you're just hate watching, you're anti AEW, you're anti this, or tribalism that. No, I'm here to provide you guys with some thoughtful, provoking conversations and stuff you need to think about. That's the type of community that I like to cultivate. I don't like to cultivate anybody that's still under the oppression that equal everything works, when in reality it doesn't in a republic when you put it up front and center. So yes, you can get this podcast episode for free on all major podcasting platforms. And then if you want to support me further, I do have an Instagram, which I am growing. And I also have a Discord that I'm probably just going to turn free, where everyone can come in and hang out and get some extra content, such as Discord voice notes, which after this, I am going to add some Discord voice notes in the chat community. So if you want to join the chat community, please do so by clicking the link. Now, just a quick little thing about the Discord. The Discord is free. So if you want all the free stuff, you'll get the free stuff. But if you upgrade to paid via Substack, Fourth Wall, or YouTube, you get the extra bonus content that other members are getting. So that's something to think about. And yeah, everything that I do is by myself, original, and I love what I do. And I hope that you guys love it too. And on the next couple of episodes, it will be for the CrossRoads series. So get ready for that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to an episode of the Square Circle Podcast. I am your host, Marie Shadows, and I'll see you guys on the next one.